So I believe we're now recording. Oh, just a second. Yeah, there's a little button there. Oh, hey, hi everybody. My name is Lisa Voisin, and I'm an author, and I've also been a technical writer for well over 20 years, or over 20 years. And I'm here today to talk to you about Word, and I feel so strange doing this little envelope, but I think it'll make people, understand what I'm talking about a bit more. So I've been a technical writer, and I've been using Word professionally for about 20 years. And today's session, I'm going to be covering things that I've learned along the way, and a lot of them are fueled or motivated by perhaps pet peeves that I've discovered, when I'm editing people's work for them, or when I'm doing comments back and forth or having my own work critiqued. I just see that people have things that they don't understand that just seem like breathing for me now. So I'm hoping to share some of those tips with you today. So I guess the first thing I'm going to talk about, if you guys don't mind, I'll just go right into talking. But the first thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is styles and formatting, because to me, this is the fundamental. You'll see I have a document on the page, and it's just done in normal font. And styles and formatting are key for so many reasons. I'm going to start with giving you the why we use styles and formatting. First of all, once you get the hang of using styles and formatting, it's going to make formatting your piece so much easier. Like, so many people will type something, and I'll be on the screen here for just a second, and they'll the space bar twice to get enough space going between their paragraphs. Well, you can actually pre-configure your documents to do that automatically, so it's spaced nicely for you. It gives you the spacing that you want. It also makes your document less likely to corrupt, and that's not so much a problem now because Word's pretty hefty and computers have huge amounts of memory and stuff. But back in the day, and like I said, I've been working on manuals for a long time, and we'd insert lots of pictures and we'd insert lots of stuff, and those things would crash if you got over 100 pages. But now we find that so that once you learn to use the styles, you're not putting in a whole bunch of extra stress on the Word program, so your document stays a little bit lighter and more portable. And for those of you who want to do any self-publishing, if you use your styles and formatting, if you set them up at the very beginning, what you're going to find is that if you want to go into Calibri, I think it's Calibri, and create your own ebook, you just put that document in with all the stuff, and it reads all the styles and formatting, and it'll convert your Word doc into an ebook. So it'll make, anyway, in any case, it'll make it a lot easier to convert to, and that's the only way I've ever done an ebook. Some of you have self-published and know more about this than I do, but I find that if you use styles, it comes in a lot more cleanly and you have a lot less mess. So I see we have another person join us, so welcome, Mary Jane. I guess before I get started into, I'll give you a little bit of the why, right? And the other thing I want to say, because I've been a professional writer for a while, the other reason why I'm a big fan of styles is you get respect from editors. It's like when you know how to use the product, there's just like a kind of a professionalism that your work has. It takes your work to that next level of professionalism. So before I go any further, and before I go into how to use them, does anybody have any questions about that so far? Okay, I've got a head shaking here.
Nope, no questions.
No questions. Excellent. Okay. So I don't know. I'm gonna take a guess. I mean, you may or may not know what styles and formatting are, and that's totally okay. A lot of times, I'm just going to collapse this so I can see my whole screen a little bit better. A lot of times when people type into Word, they just type in and they'll start typing sentences, whatever. Sentence, really boring, and I apologize for that, but people just type into that and they go, oh, well, I want extra spaces here, or I want this to have, I want this to be just a little slightly different formatting, or sometimes they go, oh, I want this to be indented. They start using the space bar, or sometimes they use the tab. to give that indentation. Now Word is pretty clever and it figures it out, but as you go, then you're sort of doing ad hoc formatting, and it's actually not your strongest way to do it. So one of the first things I do, and I actually can use this when I'm writing, but it is something when I'm in the home, like it's one of the first things I start off with, is I actually use, I forget what this is called, but it's this particular symbol key. If anybody knows what it is, please chime in. But I use this to track, it'll show me every space, every period, every hard return, and any special formatting.
It's the paragraph symbol.
The paragraph symbol, thank you. Someone had another name for it and I forget what it was very strange, but yeah, the paragraph symbol.
The Pilcrow, Pilcrow.
Thank you, Donna, the Pilcrow.
Thank you, Google.
Yeah, thank you. So the Pilcrow, I use this quite often when I'm writing and especially when I'm editing, and it's just right here in your home, on your menu bar on the home section. So I'm going to turn this on now just so that I can keep track of what I'm doing, because you'll see that this is the first thing when I look at people's work, I'll see things like this, and they'll have done the 5 spaces, and then when you go in and they'll do extra carriage returns to get their formatting, and it can get a little nuts. So what I do, and what I tend to do, is I tend to create that in a style. And then all my paragraphs, I can apply that style to the whole document or parts of the document. I never format the normal style. Like as you see here, you've got the styles section, and if you want to pop it out, you can see that there's a whole bunch of styles. You might not be able to see all the styles that are in use. Sometimes it just shows you, the styles that you're using, and if you're not using very many, you're not going to see very many. So that's where you'd go into the options section, and they have a recommended, they have in use in current document, and then they have all styles. Sometimes, like I often like to use body text. That is what I like to do all my writing in, and body text is a protected style. Now, which means you can't create a new style called body text. You've got to find it in here somewhere. Same as lists and other styles. But I tend to use, not block, oops, that's not the one I want. Body text, I was so close. It takes me a moment to find it the first time, because once I use it a few times, come on, body text. So I use body text. And then I go there and I want to format or modify body text, because we're often taught to write in a specific, we're told our documents have to go, like, it can be Times New Roman, it can be any formatting style. You never edit the normal style, because you'll have a ton of problems later on. But you use the body text style, or make another, you can modify that one, as long as you don't, the normal is the base style. So for that, you just change the font to be what you would like to see the font. I think Times New Roman 12 is a standard. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely one that is, appreciated in the industry. And we want it to be hard left return. And we can figure out, I can just, give me a second. Hard to see it on my screen with this sharing piece here, so. Okay, Donna, any idea how to remove this bar across the bottom that's blocking me? Oh, I'll move it at the top.
Can you just drag it?
Yeah.
We don't see it.
Oh, that's good. So here I go in and I format, so I can format all sorts of number of things. And this is where I format the tabs. So I actually don't want to do tabs. I want to do indent, so paragraph. And in the paragraph section, I will do the spacing. So I would choose line spacing. For this would be double, because I'm going to be entering it into submitting it, double spacing. I can put, this is where, for this section of before and after, I usually put a 12 point, or sometimes you can just choose auto. Auto is here too. And that'll give you auto spacing. I sometimes like to just do 12. Some editors have very specific things that they like. And then indentation, you see the indentation section here. You would do first line, and it's usually the 1.27 centimeters is actually the standard tab over. So you then do that, and it'll give you a section of what body text is going to look like. So then I've now edited body text. And that line, that's the only line that's in it. So if I wish to apply that, I'm just going to keep the styles here, and I'm going to apply it to my whole piece. And to do that, I'm just doing a Control A to select my whole document. And it shows normal there, but then I just find body text again. And if you want, you can create a special one as well. And for that, you just choose new and you make a new one. But I found that using body text for the body of a document to be very helpful. And there we go. Now we've got everything in that style of double spaced. We've got a nice paragraph break in between the paragraphs so we know where the paragraphs end. We don't have to have that much space, but I'll leave that there for now. And it gives us our space. And now everything in here is body text. And the next paragraphs, when we start them, if I were to write at the end, you know, it's going to be, the next paragraph is going to be body text. And it will show, hopefully here somewhere, and sometimes it doesn't. You'll just have to check to see what it is by pulling up the styles section, because it tracks it here. Body text is a standard, but it's not commonly used. So that's the first thing I do when I'm working a piece. And the second thing I do when I'm working a piece, of course, when I'm starting, is I set up a heading format. And I usually use heading 1 for my chapter breaks. And this isn't a chapter break, this is a short story that I've, had published. I thought I would use it anyway. And I'm just going to go with the basic heading 1 because people aren't too fussy, but they don't 100% like heading 1. So I'm going to modify it, give myself a little bit of space afterwards to paragraph, and I can change the space after. And also I like to often, and if I just pull this down here, just got to drag it down. I can also do a page break before, and I believe that's in format. And I don't do this very often. I have my things set up so often. Format paragraph, line and page breaks. And I go page break before. And this will then, every time I choose heading 1 for a new paragraph, it's going to start it on a new page. Now that is if I were to do, if I wanted to do paragraph 2, chapter 2, for example, put that heading 1, now I start chapter 2 on a new page with space after it. And the reason why I'm suggesting doing that is I'll show you why and how this works in a moment and why I particularly like using the heading format. You can, again, create custom headings, but that's a long, lengthy topic. I guess where I want to go next with this is the subheadings. Like you'll see that sometimes it depends on the formatting, but you see I have a number sign here. That's how they wanted us to break this particular, the formatting of this story wanted me to use a single number sign as a section break, as a mini section break. I often use heading 2 for that, and I don't like the way heading 2 is formatted because I don't want it there. Usually it's in the middle of the line. So for that, I modify, I right click and then modify, and then format, paragraph, back to indents and spacing. I think it should be there. Maybe it's not. Okay, no, it's not. Alignment, yeah, centered. So with that, I apply that, and now this one will show up in the center. And I have a few of those. So I'm just going to take a moment to put those ones in. I also, oh, look at that typo. I'm also just going to take a moment and I'm going to actually search for that field. So these parts here, okay, let's just go next. There we go. And then next. And all we're doing in there is searching. And to bring up that search bar, which I just did there, I just did a Control F. Just so that you don't think I'm jumping ahead on you. Like I say, I'm not sure what everybody's comfort level is. And when I'm just going and doing things, I have to remember to talk through it. So bear with me. So there we go. Now we've got some sections. And this is what I wanted to show you on this side here. Another reason, or another thing I like to keep open when I'm writing and as I'm writing, call this chapter 1. Chapter 1. As I'm writing, I like, I have this navigation section open, But as you see, what I did to bring that up was I had this closed and I just went Control F. And that's how I bring up the navigation bar. And it'll either give me an option to search, or you'll see on the left here, I have headings, pages, and results. That was the search results. I'm a big fan of the headings section, and I tend to keep this open when I'm writing or when I'm editing, because I can have a document that's 37 chapters, 40 chapters, and this navigation allows me to jump directly to that chapter. So let's say I wanted to go to this section, and this is like, this is another chapter. If I want to jump back to chapter 2, I do it from here.
Okay, that's worth the price of admission for me right there.
It is my favorite part of the tool, and this is where the part that I really love, and I'm just going to call this little knob here, I'm going to change this one to be chapter 3, just to show something around here. Chapter 3, and I'm going to change it to heading 1, so it's back to being, because for me chapters are heading 1. It's just something I've remembered to do. So let's say I'm reading this and I'm going, what if I wanted to move this character around here? Or let's say I'm working on if I'm working on a section and I'm not sure, and I'm in the middle of a document, I might put a couple of fancy characters in there, and I might go, okay, this one and this one, and I might lock a section. It might just be a few paragraphs, and I mark it with a heading 2 or even a heading 3. And I don't care how heading 3 is formatted, but I mark it there. But let's say I want to move this section up somewhere. Well, I can grab this section and I can just drag it. And I've just moved that section to somewhere else in my story.
You did not hear me gasp when you did that.
Yeah, it moves it.
I gasped. I had to unmute myself so I could tell you that I gasped. I'm like, I missed the beginning of this because I was late, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. But does this work for Word for Mac too?
I believe it will. I'm not as experienced with the Mac, but I know that
you have no idea how many times I scroll through pages and pages to get to the chapter that I want to. This is amazing. This is amazing. Thank you, Liz. Okay.
You're welcome. And honestly, this is why I keep using Word, is I figured out how to get Word to do what I want it to do. So let's say I want to move chapter 3 to make chapter 3 my new opening. Okay, there we go. If I want to, so I can move stuff around. I just drag it and I drop it around here. And I can put the story in the order that I want. And as long as I have these sections here, and I keep this little navigation bar open.
Where do you find that navigation bar?
Okay, good, excellent question. I would imagine it's view. Okay, so in the view field, we've got print layout. I'm always using print layout so I see where the page ends. And I honestly, give me a second. I will find this. I know it's here somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
I just saw it.
Oh, reference.
You had it before. Go back to where you were. Layout.
Uh-huh.
Where were you before, the very first part?
View.
Okay, so navigation is right here under show, right? Navigation pane.
Oh, where is it? Show. I can't see it. That's so funny.
Yeah, you just had your cursor on it. It's checked.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Thank you. See, navigation pane. Thank you. I just go Control F as if I'm searching, and then I click over to headings because I never knew where to find it in here. I just know how to. So we all we're all learning from each other today, which is great. So yeah, show navigation pane under view. Like you can also show grid lines, which mean nothing to me, and a ruler if you want to know how things are, lining stuff up. But that's more when you're lining in documents or lining up images and stuff, and I wouldn't worry about that for now. But the navigation pane to me it's like gold. So when I look at it that way, so another thing I guess I should mention is when you're doing a full-on manuscript, because chapter 1, because I've made a page space for each chapter, so I don't have to hit like carriage return in between or put insert page break. When you're doing the title of your work, clicking back to home, I actually just use a title, and I change that to look what I want it to look, right? That's the title of it. And if I want that to be halfway down the page, I actually literally put a couple of spaces there. That's where I cheat a bit, maybe center it. because it's one off and I'm using the title in one place. Or I could, you know, modify it like I was doing with those other pieces and decide where I want it to go and that I want it to be centered. And then format, you know, you can put how much space you want before it if you want. Like some people are extreme purists and they want like, you know, like massive amount of, you know, I can put like a huge bunch of like space before it. And there, you know, that's pretty big, right? That went down all by itself. It has only got a 64-point font, but I could put a 300-point font before it. But it gives me some space, and you can adjust that space or however you want to do it. And the same with subtitle. I use the subtitle for, you know, my name or something like that. And I just use those formats or the subtitle for the title. And then I use some of the other styles in this document because I'm really saving these styles to this document. It's not saving it to the normal template. And you might have heard, I don't know what it is in the Mac, but I know on the PC there's a normal .dot file, which is a document template file. And that is the template that I say do not edit the normal, do not edit normal. There's no need to edit normal because normal will, that'll impact your normal .dot file. And that your normal template, and you don't really want to mess around with that, just because there's no need to. I'm just going to put that there for now. So let me see. I guess the other thing that's really important to note, like some of the things that I've done, like I will be editing chapters and I move chapters around, but there are times when my document gets really long. And I want to rewrite chapter 1, okay? So I want to rewrite chapter 1, and let's say this chapter is 10 pages long. So I copy that. I don't know if this is going to show, but I would put this into a new document because of the way that I'm sharing my screen. But I would put this into a new document. I would edit it in the new document, make all the saves, like it becomes its own little separate piece into the new document. I'm going to change the way that I'm sharing right now. Hang on one moment. Let's do that. Oh, it is. It's working in Word. Okay. File. File. New. You're not seeing the new document as it opens, are you? Someone confirm that for me?
I think we just...
You just see a blank document?
No, we see the ninth knife still.
Okay. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop that share. And I'm going to share something else. So just give me a moment. It's going to bounce around between shares. So here we go. So I've now opened up a new document, and I can put that chapter in there, and I can edit it. And the reason why I do that is it gives me a smaller document to mess around with. It takes it out of the main document so that I don't mess up the main document. And what I do is I make my changes. And I make those changes, and then I would Control A to select the whole chapter, Control C to copy it. Now, in the Mac, you know, your whatever that is, it might be Control. It's like your Control button looks like a little flower or something. Command, I think it might be what it's called in Mac. And then what I can do, and I'm just going to now change my share again. Give me a second to go back to the original document. There's a lot more steps here than I thought. So let's say I wanted to rewrite I had rewritten chapter 1 and I wanted to insert it again. You see how on the left here it collapses, so the subsections can be collapsed under it? That also tells me that everything under there could be deleted if I delete chapter 1. So I can just delete chapter 1, right click, and click the delete button, and it disappears. And I can then just paste my new chapter 1 in, and I've replaced it. So it's a simple way to replace a chapter if you make changes. I see it's my new version. So that's how I when I'm editing or reworking or moving things around. So the only other thing I guess I would add to this for the formatting section of Word is just to make sure that I'm sure you all know how to insert page numbers, but just in case, some people, I've encountered people who manually enter numbers, so.
I have a horrible time with this, so I'm really paying attention.
Okay. Oh, that's good. I'm glad I'm not over explaining anything. That's really, thank you for the feedback. So on the insert field, and in the menu insert, there's a thing here that says header and footer, and it's under the header and footer section, there's a page number section. And I click on that, and then it's add page numbers. And I'm always adding them on the bottom for a major manuscript. For a short story, some of the formatting may want it at the top, and then you could put it on the top of the page. Oops. And what I don't like is it does have this mind of its own. So I try to come in, I try to swoop in so that it doesn't do this. Bottom of page. And I tend to go bottom of the page right, just really simple. And it automatically inserts my page numbers. The only time this can get tricky is if you want to alternate your pages so you flip them. And that's off. I don't think we do that so much in books. Like in an ebook situation, for example, you wouldn't have to worry about this kind of formatting. It wouldn't give you those page numbers. They're always going to be on your page. You're always on an ebook. You're always looking at the right-hand page. There's no left-hand page on the ebook, if that makes sense, because your ebook is always the right page, the right-facing page.
Lisa, one of the things that I have a hard time with is there's some way you can make it so the first page doesn't have the page number, or it has something different, and I never get that right. And also sometimes a manuscript is required to have like something like the title and your page number, or your name and your page number, and that also is confusing.
Okay, that's great. I can definitely cover that. Thanks for that. So as you can see by here on my default, it didn't actually go onto my first page. So, and that might just be a formatting thing that I have. So I'm clicking on the page number, and that's in design, and I don't necessarily want to go there. I want to go back into my insert and go back into my page number section and format page numbers. So in here, the number format is 1, 2, 3. I mean, you can have them be ABC if you want, but not in a book. You can include a chapter number. You can continue from previous, or start at, 1, which is what I started at. But in this case, sometimes we don't want to include the title page, so we might start at 0. And then this will be page 1 of the story. So this one. And then the reason why the page numbers show up, this is actually a page, by default, your headers and your footers, it identifies the first page header and the first page footer as being separate from the regular header and the regular footer. So if you wanted to show the numbers on every single page, header.
No, not on mine, it doesn't. On my Word, it starts with the first page on the first page with a number.
Really? Okay. So then what we do is we go into header and edit header. And let me see. Different first page. See where I am right now? It's under design tab and it says different first page. I've got mine set up so it's different first page right away. So mine is just set that way because I've done it so many times. But you would just click that and it gives you a different first page. And then your numbering will actually start on page 2. Or your second page, which is page 1 of the actual body of the, not the title page. Or in this case, I will just format the page numbers again.
Bonnie, do you have a Mac or a PC?
PC.
Okay.
Are you able to find it on the Mac?
Yes, I have the option of like setting up I can do a different first page, and then I can also show number on the first page or don't show number, and then I can have it starting at 0 but don't show it so that the next comma is a 1.
Excellent. Okay, terrific. And this one here, the different odd and even pages, this is for when you're actually doing word processing for a company, and they, like back in the, for example, you'd have to decide, set up your even page footer and your even page header. Anyway, I don't like using that so much. It's not so needed anymore. When we do ebooks and everything, we're not really using it. PDFs now, we don't use this one so much. But back in the day, when I used to do print runs for manuals, we had to fuss with all of that. And luckily, we don't need to fuss with it so much. Yes, maybe if we're getting a book print, if we're putting a book into print, we have to worry about that. But I actually haven't. I don't know what CreateSpace does, because I actually haven't set up a book in the CreateSpace format, so that may actually look after it. I'm not sure. That's a Crystal question. Let's see. So yes, you wanted to know about adding your name as well. So let's look in the. I'm going to go into. I just clicked in the footer. So you notice how there's a carriage return here. I would maybe put Lisa Voisin and then 9.5, which is the name of the story. I don't particularly like that formatting, actually. So I have a little bit of a funny thing that I do. And this is where, unfortunately, we sometimes have to do. Sometimes they want you to do this, which is actually okay, which is page number, last name, story. Sometimes they want you to do that at the beginning, at the top of the page, the footer, the header, right at the header. And then I just tab over. And this is the one place where I tab over because otherwise it's really icky. Something Word doesn't do terribly well. And I find that the tab does work in this case. And there I've got the name of the piece and I've got my name. And then that'll show up on each page once I get out of the headers and footers. There we go. So now it'll show up on every page. And that was just going into the header. So when it says insert header, you just go edit header because everybody's got a header, and I added that. There are some templates, but I've not found that the word template is very helpful because it has a three-parter. Part here, part there, and part there. The other thing you can also do is you can insert if you don't wish to tab, you can insert a text box here. I think it's text box. Yeah, there it is. And the simple text box, the nightmare text box. I'm not a big fan of it. And I would put it in here. And I think this text box will actually work. I'm just going to test it. Trying to anchor itself in, so that's interesting. And then for that, I would click on it, right-click on that, and I would format the shape that is the text box and get rid of a line. No line. And then it just shows this text in there. And hopefully that'll show up on every page. Yep, there it is. It shows on every page. And I've just inserted that in a text box, and that text box can be moved anywhere. And that is where, when you're going into view, you're going to need your ruler. You're going to want to line that up at some point. I might not want to line it up with the text. I might want to line it up with the text. I might want to use the grid lines to make sure that I line it up properly. Is that helpful at all?
Yes, thank you.
Like I said, I just put my name in tab. So far, nobody's called me on that part. Taking the ruler and the grid lines out. All right. So I already showed you the viewing pane, the navigation pane, and the viewing the chapters and going to different chapters. And I've shown you the, what is that thing called again? Pillock? This part, the little paragraph symbol, the pillock?
You're asking me 10 minutes later. I don't remember.
Okay. So I guess another thing, are you guys are familiar with the spelling and the spell correct and how to get words to get out of your spell check? Like putting words into your dictionary, adding words to your custom dictionary. My last book is all about Amazons, and I have character names like Aurelia and Micah, and they're all spelled really funny. And my word just and the word, and you know, the book is called the place is called Themyscira, and my spell check is going crazy on me half the time. So I added a lot of those words, to my dictionary. And the reason why I did that is because when you have an unusually spelled word, and by default, I don't turn off my dictionary, which you can do. I leave it on, and it shows me anytime a word's repeated or anytime I've got a comma that I shouldn't have, and it shows me, anytime something's misspelled. And if you are using a strangely spelled word, it'll always be highlighted, and you won't notice if it's not spelled properly. So if you even misspell your own fancy words. So I'll just use this one for example. We've got Tintin here, and if I look at it and let me just see, just right click on the word. So this shows as a repeated word. So under spelling, I'm going to give an option of, see more. Tintin. No, it's just looking for a suggestion. So this one's a little harder because it is 2 words. Let me see if I can I'm just going to put Themyscira in here. It might not like that. Oh no, see, my dictionary knows what it is. So I'm trying to think of a word that would be difficult to spell. It even likes that. Oh my goodness, didn't even add that one. Nope, it's pretty good for names. I'm just trying to think of some of the names that I've used. Okay. See, now this one shows up because it's not a word. So I right click on it, and then there's the option to add it to dictionary. You could ignore all if you want, but if you're writing a story or a series of stories and you've got these character names and you want to make sure they get spelled properly, you would add it to dictionary. I'm not going to add this to my dictionary.
I was going to say, Lisa, can you add it to your dictionary and then show us how to take a word out? Because I have words in my dictionary that somehow got there by accident, and I don't know how to take them out of my dictionary. It'll auto-correct. I always spell the wrong. I always spell it T-E-H. But it auto-correct to the. It auto-corrects to some other stupid word.
Well, I actually don't know how to edit the dictionary. So let's see.
I think I've looked for it before, but okay. Yeah. Well, if you don't know how to do that, then maybe that's something we can figure out and then drop in the in the comments.
Yeah, so open the custom dictionaries dialog box by following the steps in. We'll see.
Yeah.
Open custom dictionary. So you'd have to open the custom dictionary. I tell you. I have to look this one up because I don't know this one. Look at that. Doesn't like that. Okay.
Don't worry about it. Well, I just thought if you knew that you could tell us. I'm probably the only one who added bogus words to my dictionary.
Well, no, I've added bogus words to my. Yeah, I don't know how to get the custom dictionary open other than just trying to.
Oh, I know what. You're going to do it in PC, and I've got a Mac, so it'll be an entirely different beast anyway.
Yeah. Review. Word count, thesaurus, compare, protect, resume, make notes. Okay. Well, I'm going to take that out. I don't think I'll ever spell that word again, so we're okay. All right, so that's how you add a word correctly spelled to a dictionary. That's the punctuation part to show you the view, the spacing, and other details. As you can see, there's a little dot in between each time I press. So that's where I look for double spacing. Makes it easier for me to see it when I'm editing. This is the thesaurus. I can't say it. I can't say thesaurus. The thesaurus. I just right click on it, and I pull up synonyms, and I actually find the thesaurus or the thesaurus to be a very helpful tool because it helps me when I'm going through. I'll notice I use the same word over and over, and I really shouldn't. So I can change it. And it'll give me a whole bunch of different versions of the word, so I can, ravenous. Anyway, I find that one to be pretty handy, and I quite like this in Word. I think one of the nicest features Word has is this thesaurus. So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah, you bet.
This is probably a really stupid question, but what if you have a main character name and you want to change it to another name?
Oh, excellent.
I'd like to know that.
You know, it's really funny is I was just going on the searching for words and a find and rework list. So this is I have a whole blog post on this, and I'm gonna just, as I'm chatting with you, I'm just gonna, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done is one of the things my editors pointed out to me years ago was a find and rework list. So, and that is words and mistakes that I characteristically make over and over again. And I was lucky enough to have an editor who was kind enough to point those things out to me. And I know it sounds like, I know it sounds kind enough. I'm being serious because it helps me go through and edit my work before I release it. Is I go in and I look for things, the mistakes that I make over and over again. I'm just going to give you this list. I'm going to put it in the bottom here once I get it, because I wrote a whole blog post. Oh, except it's not coming up there. Come on. I'm in the wrong site. Sorry, just one sec. Anyway, so what I do is I do a search and replace. Right, find and rework list. There we go. Sorry. And I'm just going to put that in the, I don't think you guys are watching me search for that, so that's really good. I'm just going to put that in the chat window so you can access that link at any time if you like. Some of the words that I overuse. You know, like, for example, I use saw and look a lot. So what I would do is I would go into the search functionality, and again, I would go in now, I just click on Control F, and I would say look. So how many times have I used look? And where am I using look? And I would go in and I would find those words, and every time I use them, I would find another word for it. The other thing, so if you want to change a character name, so I've got a character in here called Bruiser, and it's the name of the cat. So Bruiser. And if I want to change his name, there's 13 times it's mentioned, and I want to change his name to be Jeffrey, okay? So I go in here and I can just change his name to Jeffrey by going to replace. And up pops this little window, so find what? So I'm looking for Bruiser, and then I can replace it with Jeffrey. I've renamed the cat to Jeffrey. And I can replace all. Now, if you're doing something distinct, like a character name, this can be a pretty easy thing to change. If you're wanting to change, like I had characters I called Amazons, and then I changed it to Hamazan, which was the Turkish word, ancient Turkish word for warrior. And then I decided to change it back. So I had a lot of instances of referencing it, and it's like 350-page manuscript. I didn't do a blank replace all. I actually checked, I would go and find each one. So in this case, you can go in and you can find next. You say, okay, I can change Bruiser to Jeffrey. I can replace it. And see, it's Bruiser apostrophe S, and it'll become Jeffrey apostrophe S. Or I can just replace, see, but in this case, I'm pretty confident it's a name, so I just replace them all. And now I've made 6 replacements. So then I do a search for, we've done it 11 times. So now we've got the word, so if I go to find Bruiser again, I'm not going to find it. I'm trying to search from the beginning because I have replaced every instance of the word Bruiser, the name Bruiser, with the name Jeffrey. Does that help?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That really helps. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So yeah, that's the other thing is like Word I find has a very powerful search and replace functionality. Okay, so the next part I guess is track changes. This is one of the things that I found that I worked with a lot with my editor, and it's something I'm pretty comfortable with, and I quite enjoy using it. Donna showed me this pretty neat thing that Random House gives their writers and the way that they want it set up, which I will share. Was that a link, Donna? I can't remember.
Yes, it was a link. Yeah.
Can you share that link in the chat so people could have a copy of it? If you're not, I'll find it. But
Yeah, no, you keep doing your thing, I'll find it.
Okay. So I find it really, it's a very helpful thing. So when I did the writer studio with SFU, I found that I was often giving, feedback to my colleagues, and we did it all I was in the writer studio online. I was one of Eileen's proteges, and we did all of our work through track changes. And so to do track changes, you're in the review section, and this is where you can add comments and stuff like that, and where you can track any changes that you make. I will sometimes just track my own changes that I make, so while I weigh out whether I like one pair to write this better one way than another way, again, in the editing process. I just click on the tracking and track changes. Now, I've got it set currently to all markup. Some people go with simple markup because then it doesn't look like there's any markup. I want to see the markup. So I use it as all markup. And then I have the show the markup versus in balloons. Some people have it in balloons, but showing revisions. And then you have this page with tons of balloons. I just find to show it in line. And the reviewing pane, I guess I just leave it whatever the default is. So when I turn on track changes, here is where I go, well, I don't want this, I'm going to change that. And it shows my work. It's crossed out, and that will then, if I were to view it later, or if I were to accept that change, it disappears. But it shows you what has been taken out, so you can see what you're removing and what you're deleting as you go. The other thing is you can add text, add new text as well. The thing is that will be part of your new text. So you can copy this and paste it, and it's going to paste everything in. Similarly, if you take out text and you copy it and you paste it somewhere else, the deleted text will not copy over. It's like it's deleted as far as the system is concerned, but it's showing you what's been removed. This is a very handy way to do it. Now, there's ways to set up, which Donna shows you, is if you have several people editing the same document, you're going to get a bunch of different names in there, and you have to know how your word has been set up. My word has been set up in my name, so it shows here. At least when I highlight over with my mouse, maybe it'll show me again. Yeah, let's see. Yep, it says Lisa Voisin inserted on this date at this time, and it shows what the insertion is when I mouse over it. If I handed this document to Donna and Donna made some changes while track changes was on, because the track changes go with the document. So if I were to open up Word right now and start writing a new document, track changes wouldn't be on for it. Track changes is turned on for a document. So I'm going in and I'm tracking some changes, and sometimes I'll make a change, like there might be a part missing. Maybe I want to add this piece because that's, if I have a colleague who missed something and it's a quick little typo. Or sometimes I want to change a whole section, like, wow, you could, do this way, or what my editor would like to do is give me put a comment in and then say, have you considered this? Or I really like this imagery, but I think this, and they'll give you some feedback in there. Or they might say, I suggest you add something like this, and then they'll give you some text. Rather than rewriting the paragraph for me, they'll give me a suggestion of what they're looking for in the comments, and then I can feel it out. And the reason why I'm suggesting this is actually just a courtesy issue, is that I've done enough critique groups. But I find that when you're going to a critique group and you've had half your document crossed out and it's all in red, and it's just all been rewritten by that other person, because that's jarring to anybody. Anything crossed out in red is jarring. So if you put them all in, but if you can put the same amount of information just in the comments, it makes everything easier for everyone. The other thing that's pretty cool.
Lisa, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this has happened to me too. I've started making a comment like that in the little past area there.
Yeah.
Where you have it. And then I suddenly realize what I'm saying doesn't make any sense. I don't want to make a comment about it anymore, but I don't know how to get rid of it. Like how to erase the whole thing.
Okay, there's two things you can do. If you don't like your comment, you can delete the whole comment. Up here, where my mouse is, you just click delete. You can mark a comment as resolved. This is handy if you've been chatting back and forth with your editor and she wants this, and then you go, okay, I fixed it, and you can just mark it as resolved, and it disappears. So that comment goes, and then this one is resolved. And now it'll show up like this as resolved. or you can remove the comment altogether by clicking delete. Now the resolved comment, you have to delete that one as well. And you can have, I've had quite a few comment conversations with my editor, and, it's great. I find it's a great place to do things. And so the thing about, I guess, with track changes is that when you delete things, this is where I like to keep my paragraph headers and, show that. So I can say, oh, I've deleted that. I'm putting this on the same page, the same line. Better make sure I have a little space there. If I take that space out, those two things are going to be jammed when I accept that change. See? So then I can, refuse the change or reject the change. You can reject the change there or go to next change. I think there's also a reject this change. Yeah, there it is. And you can reject change. So that's a bit how track changes works. Now, if you wanted to see how it looks in the regular form, you just not showing the markup, you can pop it out into balloons. So that's what's been deleted. They show you the new text, but then the deleted text they pop into a balloon. Some people like that. Other people like no markup, so it's just what it looks like when it's done. But when you go to print this, it's going to print it with all of the changes, unless you set it up accordingly. So I'm going to show all markup, and I believe, and if not, what I do is I copy everything to a new document and I print that. And then print all pages. And I can't remember whether we print the revisions or not. You can put document info, list of markup. Don't print markup, right? So you can then just show you what you have as if it's finished. And you have to remember to do that when you're printing. Otherwise, it's going to show the markup and the things that you removed and all the changes that you made is going to, and your document's going to look literally like what it's looking like on the right-hand side of my screen. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions about anything so far? See that Donna put the Random House instructions. I think that's great. Thank you.
I've copied it.
To everyone.
I have to go back and watch from the beginning because there's stuff. My biggest problem right now is there is something wrong with my computer. Probably because I can't update it because it's too full. And so if I have a document open in Word and I want to do something track change on it and make a comment, it immediately starts replicating like hundreds of that document. Just go until I have to turn it off. And
oh no.
Yeah, so I have to do everything in Google right now in Google Docs. So it's killing me because I like Word.
Yeah, Google Docs is not Word. I mean, Google Docs is nice, but it's not Word.
Oh, I know, it's driving me nuts. So I basically need a new computer.
Has your Word been corrupted?
Probably.
Like your program, you might have to reinstall it.
Well, I can't do much with this computer because it's hanging on by a thread right now. It's got like 5 megabytes of free space.
Oh yeah. That's not a lot of space.
No, it's like there's too many pictures, too many files. I'm deleting stuff, but it's just so old, right? It's like 6 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah. And it's on its last leg. So
yeah.
I did have a glitch 2 years ago when I got the asterisk glitch that they basically wrote an entire page on for Microsoft because I didn't keep updating my my updates, and my 89,000 word document turned into asterisks and they couldn't resolve it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I lost, unfortunately I had emailed something to myself the night before because I woke up at 2:30 thinking something bad's going to happen. And I got up and I emailed it, but I lost like 14 hours worth of edits because I was in a mad rush to get this sent off to an agent. And I couldn't remember what I edited, but anyway, I got through it, but I learned my lesson. So now something else is wrong with it. So I just need to get a new computer. Donna, I'm getting there. I'm going to make another 30.
I was going to say, you write more stories, woman, and you get that computer bought.
Another $30 this week, maybe.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Do you ever use the speech, the talk back?
You know, you're amazing. You literally just, you're looking at what I'm going to talk about next. That's amazing.
She's a witch.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm just going to turn off track changes because it'll drive me a little nuts. And I'm just going to accept all changes. Accept all changes. Or my favorite, accept all changes and stop tracking so that it doesn't bother me again. I just put this back to the format the story is normally in. So are you talking to me about, there's two things actually. There's read aloud. Is that what you were thinking? Or were you thinking about the dictate feature?
I was thinking about the read aloud.
Excellent. The read aloud. I learned about the read aloud from my 83-year-old dad, because my dad is ESL. He's French. He reads, but he reads very slowly. So when I gave him my last book in ebook format, you know, in Word, he basically put it on his tablet and he clicked read aloud. And he listened to my entire book on read aloud. I can't believe it. I don't know if you've ever done it, but it's actually a very handy feature. I don't think it's going to come across right now. So that's probably for the best because I'm talking. But what read aloud can be used for, and I do find it helpful, I was using it the other day as I was editing, is when you're listening, it gives you this monotone voice and it tells you, it reads your story one word at a time, but you will notice if you've dropped words or if you're missing something. So it is a way to read your work aloud to yourself so that you can hear it and edit your book that way. So,
you can actually download different voices too, Lisa. You can find a better one that is.
That's awesome.
I've downloaded a Scottish voice named Fiona, and she's amazing. And she uses inflection, and she sometimes doesn't stop for questions. But I find listening to a different accent, I hear things very, very differently. And
I do that with Siri. My Siri's Australian.
Yeah,
Australian guy.
Download voice.
How do you turn it on?
Read aloud. You just click it, and it does it. As long as you have a sound card in your computer and can listen to sound.
And then you just click it again when you want it to stop?
Yep. So I click here, and I would click read aloud. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it was reading it aloud to me.
Okay.
So that's one. And then the other feature, I guess, I wanted to bring up, just because, you know, spelling and grammar, I bet you this, no, it doesn't give me the suggestions. Darn. I was hoping to find my dictionary. Sorry to go a little ADHD on you there. The other feature I wanted to show you, I just pull my thing down so I can find it, and it is the dictate feature. So those of you who like drag and dictation, I've not gotten to learn drag and dictation. Let me just see if I can get it to work while I'm actually talking into it. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So I don't actually know drag and dictation, but it will dictate what you speak into it, period. Next line. Maybe. So it's not as good as it could be, but you can get blocks of text out and just talk an idea through if you wanted. And it's in its infancy, I think, but it's not a bad feature. It does give you the opportunity to dictate. I'm not a speak aloud and think person. I actually have to type to think.
This is awesome because I have a friend who's a writer and he's going blind. He's in his 30s and he's so worried about what he's going to do, and I think this might be helpful to him. He can still see, and he's written his novels, but he's worried about being blind, and this would be really helpful, I would imagine. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, the screen readers, I mean, there's a lot of tools, I believe, now for people who are you know, blind or going blind or can't see very well. I think the technology is coming in. There are lots of screen readers. The screen readers will help. But my dad, you know, his eyes aren't perfect either. So it helps. I think we have much more tools available to us, to the common person. and much more accessible than they used to be. So yeah, maybe that'll give them some hope. Now, I think it's 8 o'clock, so I've been talking for an hour. Does anybody have any other questions anything else you'd like to know before I end our session? Okay, I'm going to look up the how to edit. I want to open up the custom. If you open Word, click Tools, click Options, click Spelling and Grammar tab, click the Dictionaries button. Let's see if it's there. Okay, Word, click Tools. See, we don't even have tools. Yeah, see, it doesn't give it to me there. Okay, Manage Document, Protect. Nope. Check Documents. See, I don't even see it here. Okay. There was a custom spelling and grammar. Oh, I guess the other thing that's handy to know, if you're ever interested, is your word count. Like Word will tell you the word count of how long something is, but sometimes that starts to corrupt when it gets really big. And it will sometimes count the text that you also have in your comments. So I go to this word count section under Review, and it tells me how many I have. And then I can check the text boxes so that it doesn't show the footnotes and endnotes, and it tells me the hard number of words that I have. And I guess that's it until I can figure out the whole dictionary thing.
Thank you.
That was fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if I figure out how to change the dictionary thing, I'm just going to recommend looking it up in Google. But you would edit your dictionary, Donna, because what I'm seeing right now is stuff that's so old, it's much older than my Office version. So it's just going to be something we got to figure out on our own, I'm afraid.
I think it's one of the those things that I probably have looked up and found it, and it's just not an intuitive thing in the menu bar.
No, it isn't. So.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm going to check it. Like I said, I'm going to check it out. Thanks for being here tonight, everybody. And so I'm not alone. Or am I alone now?
Thank you, Lisa. That was great. I'm going to go back and watch this again and take notes.
Yeah, I hope you find it helpful. Any questions, feel free to message me. I'm in GLIP. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.